Hey YouTube, Engineer Boy 100. Today's video is going to be a remove and replace DIY for the secondary air pump on a 996 turbo. Okay, so I figured the easiest way to show you how to do it was to show it to you with it off of the car so you can actually see what I'm talking about, and I'll show you the places on the car too where each thing comes loose. So the first thing we need to do in removing the secondary air pump is we have to remove the cam position sensor. This little guy right here. And the way this is installed, it's installed with this oil filler tube, and they go together just like this, okay? And there's two bolts. There's two 10 millimeter bolts, and they're different sizes, so I want you to look at them because they're different lengths, okay? They're different lengths, and the long one goes through the flange, the mount flange on the cam position sensor, and then through the flange, the mount flange on the oil filler tube, okay? And then the shorter one goes through the other end of the oil filler tube, and this is way down on the car. So before we go any farther, I'm going to take you over to the car and show you where this is, and then we'll come back. Okay, I like to start back here so you have a reference. All right, so this is where the tube and the bottom of the camshaft position sensor are mounted, way back here, okay, right there. And this is where the two screws that I was talking about are mounted, okay? Now to get it like this, you do need to lower the engine. It's going to be the easiest way. You need to lower the engine. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the bench. I'm going to show you some things on the pumps themselves, and then I'm going to come back over here and show you how the pump is mounted and the easiest way to get that thing out. There is an O-ring on the base of the tube, and there's an O-ring on the base of the camshaft position sensor. If these are a source of oil leaks for you, or you look at it and they're flat, or they're worn, or they're cracked, or they're torn and need to be replaced, I'm going to provide for you the dimensions of these so that you can either look them up and get replacements, or I'm also going to try to actually look up a part number. But I don't know if Porsche has a part number for these. So I'm going to source them and get a part number and the actual size for replacement O-rings for these. And I don't think they need to be, it's just oil, so they don't need to be anything special in terms of material. Okay, so I'll put up a card, and I'll put it in the description of the video. I'll put in the description of the video the details about if you need to replace one of these because this one's leaking or this one's leaking, because that could be, I mean, if they even look remotely flattened, I would change them. So you have to go all the way back in there to get these out, lower the engine and all that. I would just change them, and that way you know you have fresh new O-rings to seal the oil in those locations. All right, on with the video. Okay, so we're back to this. Now, once you take these out, what you're going to do is you're going to take off the cam position sensor first. All right, and it's going to come out, but then the tube's not going to come off, and I'll show you why. It won't come off all the way. The reason it won't come off is because it's mounted in this bracket, okay, like this, and a normal, you know, the stock way it's made, it won't come off. You'd break it trying to get it off. I mean, some people have snapped it off, but you're gonna risk cracking this thing. It's like almost 200 bucks to replace it. So what I suggest is simply take a loose. There's two mount bolts here and here, okay? Here and here, that are mounted to the side of the air the air intake manifold. All right. Now mine, I took a Dremel to it, so it slides out. I mean, it slides right out, just like that, okay? And I just have it that way so that if I ever want to take it off, I can just slide it out and we're good to go. But for everybody else who doesn't want to do that to their car, don't sweat it. Just take these two bolts off along with the ones that are at the base here on the flange, and the whole unit will come off, okay? And I'm going to go over to the car real quick, show you where those two are, then I'm going to come back and show you what you have to do with this bracket. Slide. Okay, we're back at the car. Start out here for reference, move in slow, and here are the two bolts. There's one mount bolt here. I'm going to focus. One mount bolt here and one mount bolt down here. Okay, so you take those two loose and the whole thing will come off. Now yes, you do have to take off the electrical connector and you have to take off the hose that the pump blows the air into, but you can work that out. The hose is like over here. Here's the little hose clamp that's on it, okay, and this bracket will come off. Take that off. But other than that, that's the easiest way. Now yes, you do have to lower the engine. You want to lower the engine so that you have room to work it out, and then you have to switch the bracket from one to the other. And I'll show you what bracket I'm talking about back on the bench right now. Alright guys, one important detail that I kind of didn't point out as well as I probably should have. Take these two 10 millimeter mount bolts off when you're going to put it in and when you're going to take it off. You're going to take it off and put it in. Take these off. Leave this one on because you can't really get to it because it's up by the intake manifold. This bracket mounts with those two bolts. So you want to put that bracket on first before you completely put the pump back in. I think that'll save you some headache. Sorry I didn't specify that more clearly, but I wanted to point that out. Okay, so back on the bench. Here is the bracket that I was referring to. It is held on with 3 10 millimeter bolts. Okay, a lot of 10 millimeter bolts in this DIY. Okay, and here's the new pump. It just mounts right here on these. And these holes are not equidistant, okay? So you can't get this thing on wrong unless you really, really try. I mean, they're 3.5 that way and 4 inches that way, and you can't get it on wrong. And if you look carefully, it's actually contoured to this face of the pump. So it only fits one way. So you take this off, torque these down to a torque spec that's comfortable for you. Okay, I'm not gonna give you a torque spec. I mean, off the top of my head, it's, I don't know, 20 foot-pounds or something, 15 foot-pounds. Not too tight, it's rubber, okay? So there's no torque. You just kind of squeeze the rubber down and it gives you a springing action. So you swap these out, then you take the new pump and just kind of gently work it back in. You put your hose on and your hose clamp, electrical connector, and you're done. Then you put in your, you'll put your tube in, okay, and then the last thing you put in is your camshaft position sensor. And raise your engine back up, put your motor mounts back on, and you're done. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.